All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video as Bleacher Report came up with 4 trades that would send Brandon Aiyuk packing. We'll talk about those 4 trades and what I think of them, which one I prefer the most. This is an article written by Alex K on BleacherReport.com and their website. All right, let's talk a little bit about Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. They're the sponsor of the Krug Show. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week in both spots from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Get the brisket chili. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Tell them that Krug sent you. And this video is also brought to you by Sharp Corners Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California, right along the Monterey Peninsula. Call Anthony Catania. He's at 831-521-5264. All right, let's talk a little bit about Brandon Aiyuk. Alex K on Bleacher Report's app had an article of the four deals that the Niners could not refuse for Brandon Aiyuk, who skipped the Niners' mandatory minicamp. He's holding out, waiting for a new contract. According to printed reports, Mike Silver of the Chronicle reported that the Niners' offer is in the $26 million range. Their latest offer, ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, says that Aiyuk wants a deal in line with Amon-Ra St. Brown's $28 million deal from Detroit. So they're close, but they're not quite there yet. I wouldn't call it an impasse, but it hasn't gotten down to the nitty-gritty. Now, here are the 4 trades that Alex K says the 49ers could not pass up. The first one sends Aiyuk to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who obviously are after another receiver to pair with George Pickens. Whether it's Aiyuk or Debo, the Steelers supposedly want a new receiver, want a true number 1 receiver. So the deal would send Aiyuk to the Steelers for their young tight end, Darnell Washington. They have Freiermuth as their number 1 tight end. Washington was I believe he's 22 years old. He was a second-round pick, I believe. He's 6'7", 265, monster, huge size, dominant inline blocking tight end. He played at Georgia. He's a little stiff as far as tight ends go, but, I mean, it's undeniable that this guy can move people in the run game. And if you want a real strong inline, edge-setting, run blocker, Darnell Washington is big and physical and would be a great tight end, too, for George Kittle, and a great replacement for Charlie Warner. So it would be Darnell Washington and a 2025 first-round pick to the Niners for Brandon Aiyuk. That's the Steelers' offer. The Jets' offer is Aiyuk goes to the Jets. The Niners don't get anything back this year. They get a 2025 first-round pick and a 2025 second-round pick. The Packers' offer is Aiyuk goes to Green Bay for Christian Watson and a 2025 second-round draft choice. And the 4th trade is Aiyuk goes to the Chargers. They're saying for Joey Bosa and a 2025 second-round pick. So, okay, a lot to unpack there. First of all, let's talk a little bit about the Niners. They're inside their Super Bowl window. They have a true number 1 receiver in Aiyuk, and whether they can pay him or not we're going to find out. But it sounds like they're not that far apart in what he wants compared to what the Niners are offering. According to reports, the Niners are offering a deal of AAV around $26 million, and Jeremy Fowler is saying that he wants an AAV with 28 and change million per year. So they're in the same ballpark. They're just not quite there yet. So Aiyuk to the Steelers for Darnell Washington and a first-round pick. Aiyuk to the Jets for a first and second-round pick in next year's draft. Aiyuk to the Packers for Christian Watson and a 2025 second-round pick. And Aiyuk to the Chargers for Joey Bosa and a 2025 second-round pick. All right, let's go through these one by one. First of all, on the Charger front, I just don't think that it's reasonable to have Nick Bosa and Joey Bosa and Leonard Floyd, You've got 3 edge rushers and Yatir Gross-Matos. Bosa's also had injuries. He makes a lot of money. To me, that would be the first trade I would nix is, the idea of uniting the Bosa brothers sounds good and is popular. Might be popular for a few days, but when you factor in how much money you'll be spending on edge rushers, how relatively, relatively injury laden Joey Bosa has proven to be as an NFL player. And then you're getting a second round pick from a Charger team that's probably going to be a contender. So you're probably going to get a late second round pick. So you're talking about a pick probably in the late 60s and Joey Bosa for Brandon Aiyuk. I don't think that that's the Charger deal that I would want to make. I think now the Chargers have plenty of reason to want Aiyuk. Why? They traded Mike Williams. They got rid of Keenan Allen. They cut these guys or traded these guys. And so they don't have big-time receivers. And they've got Justin Herbert. It's Jim Harbaugh's first year. I'm sure he would like a number 1 receiver. Now, they drafted Ladd McConkey out of Georgia. I don't know that I would take Joey Bosa in a second, but if I were the Chargers, if I was the Niners talking to the Chargers, I might take Ladd McConkey in a first. If they're willing to give you a first-round draft choice in next year's draft, and you could add Ladd McConkey, and now you'd have McConkey and Pearsall and Cowing added to JJ and Debo this year. That's not the worst. McConkey's probably a pretty good route runner. He's also got some durability issues of his own, but you're talking about a guy who runs in the 4.3s and has good hands and good ball skills and good route runner. So that one's interesting. And you're trading him out of the conference to the Chargers. So that's interesting. Then let's take a look at the Packer trade. Christian Watson and a 2025 second-round pick. Well, first of all, any deal involving the Packers, I think, has to be, if you're going to trade Aiyuk to the Packers, you got to get a premium. Because, it's the same way of trading Charles Haley to the Cowboys, and watching him win 3 Super Bowls. The 49ers, literally, they trade Aiyuk to the Packers. Aiyuk is exactly what the Packers need. They've got Josh Jacobs running the ball. They got a young quarterback in Love. You got 2 good young tight ends in Musgrave and Kraft. And then they've got a bevy of young receivers, but they don't have a true number 1. But if you traded Christian Watson in a second, to me, that's not enough. I think I'd need Christian Watson in a first. And a lot of people would say, oh, that's way too high. Yeah, but I'm giving you Aiyuk, who's, a top 10 NFL wide receiver. You're giving me a guy who's got a good 40 time and has not really been consistently productive. So, I'd even, if they don't want to move Watson, I would take Romeo Doubs or Jaden Reed in a first. I would rather take a lesser receiver like a Dobbs or a Reed over Watson, who has a little bit more high-end potential, and get that first-round pick over a second-round pick. But in general, I'm not in a rush to make this trade. Why? Because why give Green Bay the final piece to their Super Bowl puzzle? Even if you're getting a great compensation package back, why set Green Bay up like that? Why take a team in your conference? You easily could wind up losing out on the Super Bowl over the next 5 years 3 times to Green Bay because you made this trade. So, Christian Watson in a second, no. If I could get Christian Watson in a first or Romeo Doubs or Jaden Reed in a first, maybe I'd consider it. But the Packers would have to pay more than the Chargers, Jets, and Steelers simply because they're in the conference. And they're a Super Bowl contender right now. And they could prevent you from going to the Super Bowl. So I would say no to Joey Bosa in a second, no to Christian Watson in a second. If I could get Ladd McConkey in a first from the Chargers, I would consider it. If I could get Romeo Doubs or Jaden Reed in a first from the Packers, I guess I could consider that as well. But I'm not in a rush. I'd rather trade Aiyuk anywhere but Green Bay or Detroit. I don't want to see Aiyuk go to Green Bay, and I don't want to see him in Detroit. All right, how about Aiyuk to the Jets for 2025 first and second round picks? Now, this is high risk, high reward. In a way, it's the biggest risk because you're trading Aiyuk to a team that has Aaron Rodgers, and you're not getting anything back that's going to help you win games in 2025. But if Rodgers gets hurt again, or if the Jets this year play like the Jets have played for most of the years in the history of their franchise, you could wind up with a top 10 pick in the first round with the Jets pick, and you could wind up with a top 40 pick in the second round making this trade. Now, the reason I don't like this trade is you're trading Aiyuk to a team that is somewhat desperate, right? They're already far down this road, putting all their eggs into the 2024 and 2025 basket with Rodgers. And now you're handing them a number one receiver, and you're taking nothing back inside your own Super Bowl window. The Niners' Super Bowl window is open right now. So that Jets trade is a real deferred gratification trade. It could wind up where you get a bonanza because the Jets fall on their face and you wind up with 3 picks in the top 45 or something like that in the 2025 draft. And in that situation, that would be good. But I don't think you can look your fans in the eye, or Trent Williams or Bosa or Kittle or any of your veteran players in the eye and say, we're trying to win the Super Bowl this year if you're going to trade Aiyuk in June for draft pick compensation that you're not going to realize until April of 2025. I think that's a non-starter. I just think that you're going to be viewed as the team that sold off on their Super Bowl inside their Super Bowl window. And if you get really close but wind up falling a little bit short, man, there's going to be an awful lot of second guessing if Aiyuk has a big year with the Jets and you handed him to the Jets and took nothing back this year as far as compensation. So that one, even though that could potentially be the biggest bonanza, that also I think would be the easiest one to say no to, just from the standpoint of you're trading Aiyuk and you're getting nothing back inside your Super Bowl window this year. So I think that's kind of a non-starter. And then trade number 4 is Aiyuk to the Steelers for Darnell Washington, the gigantic tight end, and a Steelers 2025 first-round draft choice. This is interesting if you like Washington. Now, Washington is a little stiff. He doesn't have the best hands. He's 6'7", 265. What he gives you is a dominant inline run blocker at tight end too. You lost Charlie Warner. You'd essentially be replacing Charlie Warner with Darnell Washington as tight end 2. Now, is he ever going to emerge as good enough to be tight end 1? Is he ever going to show the kind of fluidity that would make you feel comfortable with him as tight end 1? Or is he just kind of a big, stiff, strong, almost kind of like a converted offensive tackle playing tight end who he gives you a big target, but he doesn't have great ball skills. He's huge, but is he dominant as an inline blocker? How good of a player is Darnell Washington, or is he a bust? He's only 22, and you would be getting the Steelers, 2025 first-round draft choice. And who knows? I mean, that could be, 15. It could be 25. It could be 10. I mean, we really don't know. The Steelers are in a loaded division. It's a volatile, sport. You just never know. They're leaning on Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. They could be a 10-12 win team, or they could be a 5-6 win team. If they're a 5 or 6 win team and you wind up with a top 15 pick in Darnell Washington, that's not the worst. And then the question is, how good of a player is Washington? So those are the options. Aiyuk to the Steelers for Darnell Washington in a first. Aiyuk to the Jets for a 2025 first and a second. Aiyuk to the Packers for Christian Watson and a 2025 second. Or Aiyuk to the Chargers for Joey Bosa and a 2025 second. I would say I'm not in a rush to do any of those trades, to be completely honest. I think I'd rather sign Aiyuk and just go forward with Aiyuk and pay Aiyuk than trade him on one of those spots. But if I had to make one of those trades, I guess I would try to get the Chargers to reconfigure their trade to make it Ladd McConkey in a first. Because if you could add McConkey and Pearsall, two really sticky-handed possession receivers and slot receivers, and you get a first-round pick in next year's draft, what are the odds that, McConkey, that Aiyuk's going to be, 10 times better than McConkey this year? He's probably going to be better, but is he going to be worlds better? I don't know. I think I would do Ladd McConkey in a first for Aiyuk. I think I would do Romeo Doubs or Jaden Reed in a first for Green Bay, but once again, I definitely need a first from Green Bay. There's no way I'm trading Aiyuk to the Packers for a second-round draft choice. I'd have to get a young receiver and a first. Christian Watson in a second, not enough. Joey Bosa in a second, that's not the trade that I would want to make. Aiyuk to the Jets for a first and a second, man, it's hard. I don't know if I could look Trent Williams in the face and say, yeah, we traded Aiyuk in what could be your final year in the NFL. We're going to prioritize, getting draft picks in the 2025 draft and trading away our number one receiver. That's going to be a hard sell to Big Trent. And then, Aiyuk to the Steelers for Darnell Washington and a first-round pick. At least you're getting a dominant inline blocker that can help you in the run game and a first-round pick. I don't love that trade either, though. I'm not loving that trade either. So I would, first of all, the idea that these are 4 trades the Niners couldn't say no to, no way. I mean, you're telling me that the Niners couldn't say no to trading Brandon Aiyuk to the Green Bay Packers, one of their arch rivals, for a talented receiver in Christian Watson, but one who hasn't fulfilled his potential, and a late second-round draft choice inside your Super Bowl window, and you can't pass that up? No, I think you can pass that up. And to trade him to the Chargers for Joey Bosa, who's hurt all the time and makes a mint of money and just had his deal redone, and a late second-round pick most likely, I think that's easy to pass up. And trading him to the Jets and getting nothing until 2025, I think that's easy to pass up. The Steeler one is a little bit more difficult to pass up because you do need a tight end, and Darnell Washington is a big physical tight end. And you're getting a first-round draft choice in return as well, and you're taking a 22-year-old really solid inline blocker. So that's, I guess, intriguing. Once again, I don't love any of these deals. If I could, call my shots, I would probably send him to the Chargers for Ladd McConkey and a pick. And just, because I think McConkey is going to be a solid NFL receiver as well. And you get a first-round draft choice in addition. And I think that's the deal that I would make. But even then, there's a very good chance that Aiyuk winds up, in the Super Bowl wearing a Chargers uniform. And you could look really, really bad, especially if McConkey has kind of a, uneven rookie year or struggles at all as a rookie. So once again, the Niners, according to Mike Silver, are offering Aiyuk around $26 million. Jeremy Fowler says he wants closer to $30 million. Bleacher Report says these 4 trades are no-brainers for the Niners. I don't see them as no-brainers for the Niners. I don't know that any of them are just a total slam dunk. I guess I like the idea of Ladd McConkey in a first. I think I would take Darnell Washington in a first. Other than that, if the Jets were willing to throw in some player to go with their, first and second, maybe I would go that direction. I think the last move I want to make, though, is I don't want to send Brandon Aiyuk to Green Bay. To me, sending Brandon Aiyuk to Green Bay is no different than sending Charles Haley to the Cowboys, and I just don't want to see it. So there you go. Those are the 4 trades Bleacher Report threw out. As I said, I would do McConkey in a first. I would consider Darnell Washington in a first. I would move him to the Jets if I could get a player to go with that first and second round pick. And I think I would just hang up on the Packers just because there's no way I want to see that. There's no way I want to see Brandon Aiyuk in Green Bay, going to the Super Bowl 2 of the next 4 years and maybe beating the Niners to get there. So that's how I see those 4 trades. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Sharp Corners Sports Cards and Collectibles in Pacific Grove, 205 Cypress Avenue. Call Anthony Catania at 831-521-5264 for all your sports cards and collectible needs. Thanks to them for sponsoring this video, and thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.